Right. Hello, hello. Welcome to Psychic Talk. I'm your host, Priscilla Gendron, and welcome to another awesome episode of how I delve in deep into the lives of people that are spiritual. And I find it always so fascinating when we look at people's lives and where they're from and how they've achieved the goals that they've achieved. And we all come with under a same umbrella, but we're all different. And today is no exception. So joining me today is an amazing lady from Canada, and she's from West Indian descent. Her name is Natalie Paul, and she is also the founder of Nadany Enterprises. She's also an empath, a light worker, an intuitive life coach. So welcome to the show, Natalie.
Hi, thank you for having me, Priscilla. Appreciate it.
Right. So we're going to kick this off because we tried this before.
Yes.
And there was so much issues. So we knew that the universe was not working in our favor. And that in a sense is kind of how we can touch on that later on in the talk because of the things that you do for a living. So
Right.
would you like to maybe just tell us a little bit about you, your history, where you're from?
Sure, absolutely. As you mentioned, I do come from West Indian descent, so growing up was sometimes a bit challenging because here I was as this kid, having these spiritual experiences where I'd feel things in a room or I'd have things pin me down, in my sleep and stuff, or even just the dynamics in my family. Was really challenging sometimes. And of course, they just attribute that to being a problematic child, or you have mental health issues and stuff. So I grew up very much like a bit of a wild child, if you will, and parents not knowing, and being, I guess, also a first generation Canadian child. Here I am exposed to Canadian aspects of living and having these first, they're the first of their family to kind of leave the island. So they handled me in more of a West Indian fashion. But at the end of the day, we came, as I grew up, I came to understand that what I was experiencing wasn't just rebellion child. It wasn't teenage rebellion. It was really some genuine experiences where I was getting dreams, I was getting deja vus, and there was no one around to help. And though they're saying it's spiritual or, pray to God, God, unfortunately, in that moment wasn't helping. And it wasn't because God doesn't help. It was more, I just didn't understand what was happening at the time. So I tended to find people would, the same spiritual people would go to Christianity and make me feel like I was bad or wrong, or, there's something wrong with me for having had these experiences and shh, don't talk to anybody about it. They're going to think you're crazy. And there was a lot of that essence of, what will the neighbors think? And I'm like, I don't care what the neighbors think, something's wrong, So I went through a lot of my teenage life, chaotic. I got kicked out for the first time when I was 11. But I really think looking back on it now, I see that there was a lot of forces and stuff pushing on me. And in our culture, unfortunately or fortunately, there's a lot of spiritual activity. And you hear about Santeria, you hear about Obia, you hear about voodoo, black magic. There's some other ones that are under the ground as well. So the minute you come out or your child comes out with those type of abilities, your family wants to hush you up and kind of hide you away. And I guess being a Leo, hiding you away is not an option,
Definitely
right?
not an
So
option.
I did go through a lot of chaos at that time, only to find out years later that out of jealousy and stuff, people had done stuff to me to try to break down my family, to curses and stuff. And I grew up kind of both challenged being Canadian. Um, I grew up on that side of, oh, curses may not really exist. If you believe in them, that's the only time they work. And then you have this counter thought where you go to the Caribbean and you hear all of these stories about the cultural bolam and diablesse and, different kind of demons and spiritual challenges that we face. So though those same Christian people that went to church every Sunday, every now and then when you had these quiet hours of granny, you would hear these stories and you'll hear little spells and stuff that they did to overcome those challenges. So I grew up with that as an undercurrent. And I was very confused a lot growing up. And then at 25, if I may say this, the shit hit the fan or the doo-doo hit the fan because I started feeling really crazy. Like I started feeling as if things were prying at my brain, literally. I remember jumping in a car and driving all the way to Ottawa, going, I have to get away from this. And at the time, I was very confused. Very confused. Was I just losing my mind, or was there genuinely something around me. I remember walking down the street and constantly looking back when there's something following me. And so I used to put some culture practices in place. Like you come into the door, you turn counterclockwise 3 times and you walk in the door backwards. And, you have people tell you this is superstitious, and other people are superstition, and other people are saying, this is what you have to do to make sure the spirit doesn't come in. So there's a lot of confusion growing up and trying to make sense out of the feelings I had, between the visions, the dreams, the sensing stuff. I wasn't so much a person that would get like, like see spirits, but I definitely felt them. And
Yeah.
then I also had that challenge of being able to pick up people's emotions.
So
And I
what
didn't
do you think
understand that.
was what do you think was your turning point in this whole journey? Because I mean, having had such a chaotic childhood,
Mm,
and it's almost kind of like being set set a cast to sea in a lifeboat
mhm,
without any oars. When
mm.
did you find the safe harbor? Which means when did you find, okay, I can find peace within what I have and I can work on it?
Mm. I think there was two key moments in my life. One was the current when I had my son at about 25 years old. I think that was a time where I'm like, okay, if I don't do something, people are going to strike me down, and my son will have nobody. And then another time was in 2013. I got into a car accident, and although the accident was so simple, like my kids were in the car got totaled, but for all intents and purposes, it could have been so much worse, and it wasn't. And but it floored me for 5 years. It really put me at the bottom that I said, okay, either you die, either you give up on this life and you hope for another one, or you start questioning all this. I said, God, I know I'm not a bad person. So I can't understand why all these things keep happening to me. And I didn't understand the concept of if you're a person of light, even good people could sometimes not like the amount of light you come into a room. And because of the abuse, I think I was also very much needy. Like I wanted people to like me. I needed that love and attention. And I guess you could say I was looking for it in all the wrong places, right? I now turn more to spirit to get that sense of love and appreciation. So that whole journey of my car accident and rehabilitation and finding out it was really weird because they weren't seeing what was wrong, but I was in excruciating pain and I was doing super well. And that was the story of my life. So I started paying attention to trends and turning inward, reflecting more. I go, okay, God, I notice every time I'm doing well somewhere, I crash and burn. Is this a mental health problem, or is this something being done to me? Is there someone interfering in my energy sphere and forcing their will on me, And as I started to looking at that with, I guess, more of an objective eye versus a judgment or, I went through a lot of pain during that time, physical pain, but I was at St. Lucia, and my uncle who does spiritual work saw me. I couldn't even walk 15 steps. And yet the doctors couldn't see in my MRIs, multiple MRIs, CT scans, physiatrists, chiropractors, surgeons, couldn't see why I was in that kind of pain. I said, but I'm in that kind of pain. So I looked to chakra. I started looking outside. And that what I say would be the beginning of really the journey of saying, okay, there's more to this. You now can stop doubting this other element of your life or your culture and start embracing that, at least for you, this is your reality. And from that, when I kind of surrendered to that, I started getting answers, real answers that brought about change. Just to show you, I went to St. Lucia at one point and I couldn't walk again. My uncle looks at me and goes, no, you have an evil spirit on you. Seriously, this is ridiculous. You can't even walk 15 steps and you're crouching down. And yet I knew my body functioned. I knew, so I kept pushing, but I'd be crying. People would stop me on the street. Hey, do you need a ride? I'd be in the shopping mall with my kid crying. I couldn't care less who saw me cry anymore because for 5 years I was in pain. And my uncle gave me a spiritual bath. And I kid you not, from the time he prayed, I felt the weirdness in it. I felt like my uncle didn't tie my hands down to the chair, and yet my hands were stuck to the chair. He had just used some spiritual oil and prayed over my hands, and I was stuck there. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I was seeing myself from within my body looking out as if I was seeing through binoculars. So I decided within my spirit to start praying along with the work my uncle was doing. And I kid you not, me who could not walk without a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair sometimes, literally walked out of there through bumpy road to get to the shower to do my spiritual bath. And the pain reduced, I can honestly tell you, 70% to 80% right there on the spot. And I came back going, All of a sudden, the surgeon can now see the problem. All of a sudden, the doctor's understanding. All of a sudden, my medication is working. Was that faith? Was that really a spirit on me? Don't care. The pain was gone. You know what I mean? And I was able to walk. The pain that, and like Uncle said, he goes, you won't be painful. He's literally said it before I left. He goes, your pain will now be seen for what it is, and you'll now be able to endure this pain. And sure enough, that's where I'm at now. So I'm now back on my feet in an essence. And that's where I think the real turning point came for me that said, you know what, there's something in this. This is not just psychological. And even if it was my faith that healed me, it still confirms spirituality. It still confirmed a greater force out there that impacts your day-to-day life. So I tend to work with law of attraction a lot. When things don't go right or wrong, or either way, when they go right or when they go wrong, I first stop to myself and go, okay, am I vibrationally in alignment to this situation? So if I want something, I'm not getting it, am I vibrationally in alignment? And I still attribute that to God, because in the Bible, it talks about ask and you shall receive. Well, how are you asking? These are all the meditations and reflections that came. Are you asking verbally, but still mentally stressing? I go, is God working with my words, or is he working with my thoughts and feelings? And so when I started mastering that a little bit better, you know, I started seeing results in my life, especially when I was able to master it and let it go. Like pray on it, want it, visualize it, and then let it go. And just allow it to manifest as it was supposed to. So I'm still a work in progress. I'm still learning how to do it. But now the difference is that when things go wrong, or when they don't go the way I want, I immediately check, okay, God, is this going wrong because there's something you need me to learn in this situation? Or is it going wrong because I'm not properly aligned to the outcome that I want? And so
It's
this
an
is
important
where
lesson. That's a very important lesson.
yeah, exactly. And that's where I started coaching from, because I started doing work with my uncle in the Caribbean to spiritually help people. But what I was noticing in them is that they were coming to spirituality as a last resort. They didn't really necessarily believe in what they were doing, but they heard about it like I had growing up. And, you know, you don't go to this witch doctor on the side or this medicine man on the side. So I tried to make more sense, like using more modern culture versions or speeches to explain it to people. And I found people were looking at me going, okay, that makes more sense to me. Because they were experiencing the change from religious doctrine, because St. Lucia was like 97% Roman Catholic at one point. So you can imagine, you don't go to
I
the
know,
witch
I mean, I
doctor.
was raised Roman Catholic, so I can understand that whole journey of being raised and of, you know, generational Roman Catholics, not just one generation, but several generations.
Right.
And their ingrained belief system is very different. It's very regimented. And coming in as a psychic medium and talking to dead people, you know, and things like that, it didn't fit with the narrative at
Mm-hmm.
all. I used to have to
At
keep
all. At
quiet.
all. And I think some members of my family were a little bit more rigid about it, and others more. My mom was the last of 13. So you can imagine we have to go through everybody when something happened. The whole family heard about it, you know? But I think there's a lot of richness in that culture as well, which I think people tend to turn away from what they don't understand. And I used to challenge people and go, you know, you believe in God, but why? I'm not saying not to believe in God. I said, do you know why? So you're looking at me doing the spiritual work you're doing, and I do mainly like spiritual bath. I'll cleanse a house. And I'll also ask if it's within my means of doing it. I won't just jump into any project. I'll make sure that spirit wants me to do this particular one, because it's also coinciding with that person's spiritual journey. So this will either drastically impact them or change them in a way. So we're co-creating in that minute. And funny enough, it's through the concept of law of attraction. I'd gone to a seminar, Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction. I love the concept. And that's when I started really turning back to the Bible and turning back to spirit and God, and allowing my doubts, my confusions, my questions to come forth. And that I think also helped my faith. And there's so much more to understand about it. So I can't even claim that even the avenue that I'm currently studying is the end all be all of it. I'm constantly learning, constantly growing where spirit takes me, you know? But law of attraction really got me to start looking at the Bible from another way. Stuff like ask and you shall receive, and understanding that it's, for me, the thoughts, your feelings that really guide a prayer, not your words.
Yes.
So if I'm stressing about stuff, that stress is what's going to lead my outcome of my prayer.
I know you're very dedicated to fostering more light and love into the world. And you also then have a very safe platform called the Lightworkers Haven. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the Lightworkers Haven is a project I recently started because I went through or I'm going through a process where um sometimes turning to people, they don't have all the answers, and it became very lonely for me to deal with some of these challenges that I was facing. And some of them are moral challenges. Like I have some friends that do darker work, and I have other friends that do a lot more light work, and but they're good people. Like when I say they're good people, they're still people that will go heal people, even though they might have a different perspective. So Lightworkers Haven is although I say it's Lightworkers Haven, it's really a knowledge haven.
Yes,
Eventually the goal is to get like oils up and candles up and that kind of stuff. But right now it's really just a knowledge base, someplace that people can just come and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Or I experienced this. Eventually it's going to be some of my stories to kind of connect with people that they can realize, oh, I'm not alone in this, because I pretty much felt alone with a whole bunch of spiritual, quote unquote, I would say more religious people around me. So to offer them a spiritual place of non-judgment, just because you have an experience, it doesn't make it true or real for that person that is, right?
exactly.
So
They feel
that's
they
what
then
this
they've got somewhere to go because they also
Mhm.
out to sea without an oar. And
Right.
you're the lighthouse now. And it's funny that you call the Lightworkers Haven. It's like you've become the lighthouse.
Exactly. And there's also another side which it actually stems from Nadany Coaching. And I wasn't sure, like I coach business startups, I coach spiritual pathways, and I also do like trauma-informed coaching because I do come from a trauma background of beatings and various things culturally, as well as just walked into the wrong situation at the wrong time type of situations. So I do offer that because I find a lot of times when people step into spiritual awakening, it very often, unfortunately, comes from a bit of some kind of trauma, life and death situation, an attack of some kind. So I do offer that as well. And that's more where Lightworkers Haven came from. So, but I realize not everybody wants to go see a coach or a psychologist or whatnot. And so this platform also offers that link to Nadani Coaching, which is where I help more intuitively, where we can look at your life path. We can look at see how your astrology, your numerology, and just what I pick up on can help realign you and re-guide you to find that peace within yourself. So it's not about me telling you what to do. It's more about affirming um, what your spirits are telling you to do, that maybe while you're chaotic, you can't pick up on all of it. And even the doc, they say even the doctor needs a doctor, even the psychologist needs a psychologist. So it's really, I guess, geared to intuitive people that are going through spiritual awakening. Although we're all spiritual beings, some of us are here for that purpose. Some of us are indigo children, crystal children, real rainbow children. So it helps them in particular. It's really geared to them and other people, but them in particular, I have a soft spot for because of what I've gone through,
Yes, and I think
adapting to
everything
it.
that's been happening over the last couple of years as well, in terms of the
Yeah.
5D and all the energy shifting, so many more people
Hmm.
are awakening to their
Hmm.
spiritual potential and
Hmm.
are clueless as to where to go. Where do I go? What do
Yeah.
I do? Who do I speak to? What is happening to me? Am I going mad?
Well, I could totally relate to that because I remember, of course, I was raised in a religious environment, and I remember going to one of the largest St. Joseph's Oratory, not to dog them because I love that place. It's beautiful. So I went in there, really had this bad dream, this dream that left me really heavy when I got up in the morning, and it was very ominous. And so I went to there going, okay, this is my haven, right? I light candles, I pray, I go for walks. Um, and then I walked to see the priest, and I said, hey, Mr. Priest. I had this dream that really perturbed me. Can you give me some insight on that? And the guy just looked at me like lost.
Mm,
And I finally realized, unfortunately for some intuitives, church is not where you're going to get your answers. You might have to hunt down the individuals within that church. But the church as an organization, and once again, I'm not dogging church or anything like that, because I still go periodically when I'm inspired to. Like I still enjoy that fellowship there, but I also recognize that when I have dreams or omens and I need help or need some kind of solace, Buddy couldn't help me. He was lost because his life journey was not about that. He had a different purpose in this world than I did. And I needed to start seeking out people that had like experiences or like they're at there's some spiritualists that are more advanced than me. They're more in tune with it. They got it from birth. And yet some of them are more advanced where in tune and more chaotic because they were left alone. They don't know what to do with that. And I'm more grounded and I have probably less exposure to like psychic energy than they do. So everybody at some point needs that kind of haven that they can connect with people, teach people in some ways, and learn from people in other ways. So that's why all that, because unfortunately, I don't know that religion offers a safe enough platform without judgment for intuitives and people going through spiritual awakening.
I
I
think
find
sometimes with religion, it's more about judgment and living within the square um, process or profile of what it represents. And it doesn't allow you to explore anything beyond that. It's kind of like they
right.
put blinkers on and
Well,
like people like
sorry, my
yourself
apologies. Go
and
ahead.
me and other
Mhm.
people that are spiritual, I think that we find it very hard to stay within the confines of the parameters that religion gives us, because we have it from the time we're born. We christened and we do our Holy Communion and we do our confirmation. And I was very involved in the church. I was raised in a Catholic home, a Roman Catholic home, and I went to a Catholic school and I did everything. And even into my 20s, and even now, I still enjoy the as you say, the fellowship or the connection that it gives me, to connection to God
Right.
and to Jesus and to everything like that. But in the other aspect of what I do for a living, it clashes.
Yeah, it's
I
taboo
have this
in that culture.
quandary.
It's taboo.
Mm.
Oh, it's definitely. Um, I can definitely appreciate what you've gone through there because, like I said, I didn't get that support. It is easier for people to say you have a mental health problem or go get your child checked than it is for them to say, hey, maybe there's an aspect of spirituality that I'm not aware of. And I think part of it is because it scares the crap out of people. I think our society is really geared to stick within the known and what's safe. And once it's known, it's safe. And that's an illusion. That's really illusion. I think that's what leads to a lot of illness. I work a lot with chakra. Like this is probably the first cold I've had in 2 years, and it's just because I was going through something particularly. But to say I even get sick often, I do have other ailments that I'm working through, but I do work with chakra and energy. And you when you open yourself up to spirit, you now stop limiting religion and you can now start taking the good and love and light from different religions. Like I look at Kabbalah, I look at Taoism, Buddhism, I even look at Santeria because Santeria is not all bad, and you start understanding magic is not even just about bad or good. It is just what it is. Your intention defines it. And now you start understanding a little bit more God's judgment or spirit's judgment on stuff. And I don't even think it's judgment. There's just a scale. Where do you at on that scale? At the end of the day, it's neither bad, good, it just is. And your outcome will be in consequence to the vibrational alignment that you put out there. And sometimes that might seem, you get hit from something that you thought you did good. But if you take a moment and look at it, you can sometimes see all the signs that told you, get the hell out. And you didn't listen. So you got the blows that, your spirits are even knocking you over the head, telling you, leave, like poltergeist, get out. But yeah, so I've definitely learned a lot along the journey. I'm always going to be a work in progress. Um,
Well, my
I
favorite
love,
expression is you teach best what you need to learn.
exactly, exactly. And then of course it forces you to do that research and figure it all out as you go. But yeah, like I'm happy with where I've reached. I'm far from where I want to be, but I'm definitely happy. If I think for me, the mantra is, did you do your best today in this moment? Are you living your best moment? And that's what I want to get out there, that people can find some peace in it. And when I get off kilter, and I do, I just remind myself, are you living your best moment? Did you do the best you can today, right now? And then it kind of helps settle me down and you're able to let go a little bit and stop needing to control as our society teaches us to do, right? Control everything. So
And so
yeah.
what is coming up for Natalie and Nadany Coaching? And
Ooh. Good question. Really, I'd like to, I definitely want to, or will be increasing, like I do some TikTok little talks. I do a rune of the day. And what the rune of the day is not so much predicting people's lives. It's kind of giving them a theme to look at. And you kind of just trust that if you're seeing that rune, if you're seeing that or you're inspired to look at it, then that message might be for you today. And I do coaching through that, just general message. And then to, of course, let people know, because I just came back to Canada, I was settling down for a bit, so I wasn't actively doing baths and that kind of stuff. But yes, that will be picked up probably by June. But the site's up, so I do meetings if people do want to come out and have a consultation. I do offer currently a 60-minute free consultation. I think anything less, it kind of can't feel you out a little bit. And I think it's also important that we make sure we're the right fit, that I am somebody you feel you can get solutions from, that you feel at peace with, and I might not be that person that you have long term. I'm okay with saying bye, especially because it's your growth. And if you come back to me, I really want it to be because you're now reaching another level in your spiritual journey, not the same issues, because then we're not doing something right, or we have to work on something some more, which is fine. But I'd like to see people grow and evolve. So that is where I'm going now. Life coaching, I'm directing it a lot more to people going through spiritual awakenings that just need that touch base to kind of connect and feel supported. I do business startups. I do as well help spiritualists that are out there doing the work get a reasonable platform to build with Nadany Connect. Yes, I do have quite a few multi-talented. So I do websites as well to help people get started. I create their social media platforms. And sometimes that's just overwhelming to people. So I help with like the Facebook, the TikTok, the Instagram platforms, even getting you set up on WhatsApp, because those platforms are all connected, and giving you a reasonable price to do your websites just to get out there. So if you look at NadanyCoaching.com is one of them. I also have the Lightworkers Haven just to see some of the samples of what I do. And yeah, it's a very reasonable price because you could pay thousands of dollars to get a site going, but you just really need to get your name out there, put a platform where you can do some appointments, some talks, some blogging, and just let people start knowing. And I can coach that as well.
So it's a one-stop shop in a sense.
Exactly. I don't want to do too much, but it is all geared to getting more love and light out there, which is ultimately my mission, right? And also to be empowered and transcend, which means like transcend your limiting mindsets. Because I do believe like everything's possible. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet. And though science may not validate everything we do, that's just because they haven't figured it out yet. They haven't figured out the proper tools to quantify and qualify. That's all.
Well, Natalie, we can talk until the cows come home. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and we've had several chats already, and it's really such a pleasure, and you've got such an amazing energy, and I hope that your business goes from strength to strength, because I know there's other things in the pipeline as well, which we're just in the process of talking about. So I just want to thank you very much for joining me, and my special guest, Natalie, and all the details of how to contact her will be in the description below of the video. So thank you very much, Natalie, for joining me.
Thank you, Priscilla, for giving me that opportunity. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, everybody, same time, same place next week. Look out for our brand new speakers with fascinating and interesting lives. See you around. Bye-bye.
Take care. Blessings. Bye.